Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the GD1A Sports Podcast. This week's going to be a little bit different. As you all know, the games are done, the tournament's over. So we decided to bring in a guest this week, one that Dally and I are both excited to have on, Coach Cornia from Rich High School, the boys state champions. So welcome, Coach. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we just kind of want to roll through here and ask a few questions, maybe about your coaching ways, and kind of talk about your team, and we'll talk about the big game before we're all done. So I'll let Dally get started here with some of the first questions he's got.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Coach Cornia, we're just so glad you're here with us, but we just want to know, what is your core coaching philosophy, and how do you what's your style, and I guess
that's right.
What's your philosophy on your coaching?
Well, I mean, I really think in a lot of ways coaching has changed from when I played. So I graduated in 2000, and I did play for Rich under Jerry Holmes, and Ralph Johnson was an assistant, and then my dad was another assistant. So I came up through that. Coaching, in some ways it's the same. You're trying to get a group of kids to buy in to a team and to care more about how the team does and how they performed as an individual. But I think the X's and O's have changed quite a bit, and I think coaches have to be adaptable. So I guess as far as an X and O philosophy, defense is a little different. Defense is it's heart, it's effort, and it's just willingness to go work hard. But offense, I think you have to look at the group of kids and say, what style fits this group? If we were at a bigger school, or if we were in college, we would recruit kids, or we would choose kids that fit the style of the coach. But in small schools, man, we don't get to control talent level, or we don't get to control size of classes. And, I think you have to be adaptable. But outside of X's and O's, the goal is for these kids to go through this and be, just better husbands, better employees, better employers, better sons-in-laws, like better neighbors. That's the goal. And that really is, it's the overarching goal. And I think if you put the cart before the horse and say our goal is only to win state championships, I've coached kids that I think we were very successful on the floor. I don't think I did them justice with life lessons, and those are the ones you regret more than losses of games. And I think in high school, especially 1A, that has to be our goal, is that these kids come out better people, more disciplined, because of what we did over the course of 4 months in a basketball season.
I love that answer because, as I've said in many of our episodes coming up through high school for me with Coach Gines and Coach Jerry Strebel, there's so many things they taught me that went beyond basketball that I have used in my life to try to be a better person, and things that I do. So I love that answer, and it's cool. I didn't think I was the only one that felt that way, but it's cool to hear somebody else say it.
Yeah.
Well, and you look at the coaches in 1A, that's the mentality of everybody. I've talked with kids from Panguitch coming through Coach Barney. They're better people. They're better ball players, but they're better people because they were around Clint Barney. And the same thing for Coach Syret, and for Coach Gines, and for Coach Hughes. These kids, you see them, they want to come back and be part of the program, even just from the stands. And I know sometimes around here they say, and a kid wants to come back and they've been graduated 2 or 3 years. They kind of throw the hometown hero card on them. And I say, no, that's not what it is. They gave everything to this program. They learned lessons. It's important to them. And of course they want to come back when they're 22, 23, or 35, because it meant that much to them. And we say around here, I'm sure you guys say in Tabby, you're forever a rebel. You're a rebel for life. I'm sure you're a tiger for life. That's not because you put a round thing through a round thing. that's because of what you did in locker rooms and on buses and in practices, that you're just proud of what a group accomplished together, and you want to stay connected. I think it's the best thing in the world when kids want to come back and help with practice, or they give me a call. I mean, that's the best part of coaching right there. And it says something about what those kids built as a team.
Well, and I think it says something about you as a person as well, to know that they do want to come back and they do want to contact you, and even if they just come and watch your now current team play, I think it says a lot about you and your character as well.
Well, I hope it does. I know my favorite part of coaching is going to wedding receptions, going to graduations of kids. I mean, I coached in Evanston before I came here, and I still get wedding invitations. Kids will text me, and it's not because of basketball. It's because something that happened with that group of guys that we built together was important to them. And yeah, there's nothing better than a wedding reception, and you look that girl in the eye that one of your former players is marrying, and you say, hey, you're lucky with this one. You got a good one. Take care of him.
Well, now our cousin's wife, she's from Rich, and she has told me, even my cousin, I don't know how much time they've spent around you, but they know you, and they both
Quite
they
a bit of
both
time.
really.
We were neighbors in Evanston, actually.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so they both really, really like you, and he asked me when he was up here helping us wire our studio what I thought of you, and I was like, well, I don't know him that well, but what I do know,
Son of a
I
jerk.
like, yeah, I like the style that you coach. You can watch you with your kids, and you can see that they respond to you and they respect you, and it just, I think what you have is a really good thing. I mean, it shows you made it all the way to the top, and like you said, you have kids reach out after school, whether it's 2 or 3, 5 years later. I mean, it's a cool thing, and for me, I was gone. I moved away for about 8 years, and I just came back 2 years ago. So all these kids that are playing, I know them, but they don't know me, So like now I've been back a couple years and starting to watch them and get to know them, and it is so cool for me. This might hurt you a little bit, but watching our girls win that championship was really, really cool. You just see everything they've gone through all year, and it makes me feel like I'm a part of it, even though I'm not. But it goes back to what you said. You're a rebel for life, we're Tigers for life, and it means more than just that sport. You want to see these kids accomplish, and be successful and get what they're going after.
Well, and while we're on the topic of the girls' game, I'm good friends with Coach Lundgren here, and I know that he and Jake Fabrizio, that's a very positive coaching relationship. I mean, they play hard against each other, they compete, they want to win, but there's a deep friendship there too. And I heard Coach Lundgren say, I asked him about the game, and he said, well, that might have been a little destiny involved. I think that group of girls from Tabby, they were just meant to win it that year. And you look at them holding up the photo of Miley, the comebacks that they had, losing twice to Rich during the season, but not putting their heads down, not giving up. Sometimes there's bigger forces involved in those games than just who wins or who loses. And
Absolutely.
I was very happy for Tabby. I was heartbroken for our girls, but in the end, that was a great game, and the run that Jake and his girls made in the last couple weeks of that season, pretty special. The Wayne game especially. I don't know what your beliefs are, but man, when I believe it was Joy threw that shot in from 3/4 court, there might have been some help with that one finding the bottom of the net.
There's been
Sometimes
some
it's
talk
just
that
bigger
there
than
was
the
an
game.
angel sitting on the rim for that shot. Yeah.
For sure. What year did you take over the program there in Rich?
So we moved here during COVID. Actually, I was at Evanston, and we were planning on being in Evanston for life. I'd been head coach there for 5 years. Worked with the high school for 6, and then I was at the middle school. So I coached all 12 years there, both football and basketball at the middle school, and then moved to the high school. And we really enjoyed it. I loved the relationships I had in Wyoming. And then COVID hit, and it's funny how things tightened up and some things loosened up. And suddenly we had somebody interested in our house. My dad lives here in Randolph, and Evanston's only 20 minutes away. I moved all of 12 miles. But a job came open here, and somebody was interested in our house, and I said, I might need to be closer to my dad. We have a ranch, and I think an extra hand would help. I mean, I still screw it up and open the wrong gate or close the wrong gate or whatever. But, yeah, we we moved here, and it just happened to be a year. Ashley Brown had been coaching here for 20 years. My dad was his assistant for all those years and did a phenomenal job. And he said, I'm pretty tired. I have some grandkids I want to go see, and so the job opened up, and I applied and got it. So my first season was 2021 or 2020 and 2021, and then this was my 6th year. It's my 12th overall.
And I really like your dad. I remember him. He was the assistant when I played too, and I don't know if he remembers me or not, but he was always one
He does.
on the coaching staff that would always say hi to us, whether it was at state or even at the games. If we'd go to Rich, they'd come here, we'd see him during JV. He was just always so polite and so kind, and after the game, shaking hands, he'd take a minute to say a little extra to you, and I really liked him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked to him more in their open end on, especially in the Dally for Dinosaurs there in Vernal when he was always there. But yeah, he always kind of went out of his way to come visit me, even when I really didn't know him. So, but yeah, I do love your dad. He's a really good guy, and my dad says the same thing. He loves Bill. So,
Well, I was a manager for Rich, so he started coaching as an assistant for Jerry Holmes. I think the first year was 91, and I don't remember which year it was, but it was the year you guys came into the region with Rich, and I believe Duchesne, and back then even North Summit might have been in that region if I remember right. But you guys had just come in, and Rich had never played Tabby, and you guys played Green River at Green River, and this is before video sharing and all that. So Jerry Holmes, my dad, and I loaded up in a district vehicle and drove to Green River to watch you guys play. I remember there was Brandon Casper and Jake Fabrizio was on that team. And I'm pretty sure I have that right. Yeah, Brandon Casper and Jake were both on that team. And I remember I would have been like 10 years old, riding home with them from Green River talking about Coach Gines and how hard they play, and what do you do with the Casper kid in the corner, and how do you contain Jake Fabrizio? I mean, that's what I grew up on. And so to continue to be able to coach, against Coach Gines and to see these names that don't really change, you still see a Fabrizio kid, or you see a Rhodes kid, or a Giles or a Gines, and it's pretty special. And I know not many people pay attention to 1A sports. But I think more should. The traditions that happen and the connections people make, I don't think you find it in 6A.
No, I agree. I don't think you do either. That was our main goal with trying to do this podcast, is to try to get more people involved in 1A, because it's a whole different animal in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's just a giant family, it seems like, So the next question we had for you is, what are your top 3 team values? I just feel like every coach has their 3 that they just really focus on with their teams.
Yeah, we actually let the players vote on those. I'll bring up a copy of a practice plan here, just so I make sure I get them right. So our team motto this year was "He who dares wins," and dare to be great. It kind of comes from a Latin thing. The kids found it, liked it, and we put it into Latin. And so that was our theme of the year, was dare to be different. And you see a lot of these teams. I mean, there's great things in basketball. There's also some pretty toxic things in basketball, especially youth basketball. And we just said, I don't know if we were perfect at it. I know we weren't, but we wanted to try to be different than the typical American high school team that has some ego in it and some selfishness, and we just said, no, let's be different than that. And so that was kind of our motto all year long. But as far as what I value, if you work hard and look me in the eye, and work hard, there's so much that goes into that. Work hard, look me in the eye, and don't quit. That's what I want to see in a player, regardless of whether a shot goes in or they dribble it off their foot. I mean, obviously, there's a base level of skill kids need, but man, when they just work hard as hard as they can, people say 100% effort. I don't know if that's possible for people to give, but they're giving you as much as they possibly can, possession in, possession out. They look you in the eye when you have feedback for them, and they don't quit. They don't pick and choose when they do those things. Those are my favorite players. And as I look back over my career, there's a lot of kids that I still stay in contact with that people go, man, that kid wasn't even All-State that year. And I say, yeah, but I was around that kid at practice every day. And I've got him for life. I'm loyal to him for life because of how he played. So that's what I would say are the three things I really like to see in a player.
Little things like that people outside of the practice gym never see, and they don't really understand that there are those types of things. A lot of people go straight to the stat sheet, or like you said, wasn't an All-State. And there's a lot of small things people don't see. With that question, there's one here that I would like to follow up with because it kind of plays into that. And it's how do you help? It's saying the 13th man, but how do you help with these kids that maybe don't see a whole lot of varsity time, if any at all? How do you keep them feeling engaged and valued and like they're supposed to be there?
I think you have to have different standards of what success means. And, there are roles on our team. I mean, we had a couple freshmen who ended up guarding Ridge Lundgren all year long at practice, and some juniors too. But we had two freshmen that, they didn't get to see the floor. But defending him all year long, trying to say, hey, you're going to be Case Thomas today, and here's how he would defend Ridge, and you need to go do that. Even though he's 18 and taller and quicker and stronger than you, you have to give us a look. And when you celebrate them doing that well, I think they all feel like they have a part in it. That what happens on the practice floor, it does translate to games. And in the end, they only throw one ball out there. Only one guy can shoot on any possession. But there's other things we value. And, I think that Coach Gines is a master of this. I've watched kids that play for him that don't really get to shoot that much. That's not their role. And you can see they feel valued. They feel important. They know that they're contributing something that the team needs. And what's amazing is some of those kids, you see them go through 4 years, and by the end of it at state, they've come along in the other parts of the game too, and they can score the ball. There's been a couple of kids I've said, well, I don't think they'll really shoot it. We can leave them. And you get to state, and they go 3 for 4 and put them in your eye in the corner. And, if kids will just keep buying in and keep working, even if it's not the role they want in the minute, they're all going to do something that's really important to a team, being proud of who they are and being successful.
Right, and there's one kid that's on your roster that this year, I don't think and maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, please correct me, but it doesn't seem like he was as much of a scorer last year as he was this year, and especially the second half of this season, is Jet Holmes. We kind of noticed his shooting improving, and all of a sudden he's getting 3 and 4 threes a game, and in the championship game, I think it was, he hit 5.
He went off in that game.
That's, last year, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but I remember him being hustle, defense, strong, physical. And then this year I see him and I'm like, this kid, he seems like he can shoot the ball, and then I seen that championship game, he hits 5. I mean, that is huge. I feel like for you guys, because he's going to be there with the defense and everything else, but to add that in there and maybe take some pressure off of maybe Lundgren or Scott or something like that to pitch in that extra help.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he was a kid last year that, he came in and he gave Drake Weston a break when Drake needed it, which, you all saw Drake play. He played hard. You can't play that hard for 32 minutes. He needed some breaks. So we asked Jet to come in and contribute, take care of the ball, and he did that well last year. But, man, being in all those practices, going against Drake, going against Carter Hoffman, Riker Hoffman, Daniel Smith on our last year's team, his skills developed. And, I would say if you asked him, he'd probably say he was a football-first kid, loved football, his family loves football. But, he knew that, especially playing with guys like Ridge and Carter Scott, he knew he was going to be open, and Ridge, Ridge is the type of player, if you're open, he's getting you the ball. And I watched that kid after football put in a lot of time on the shooting machine, being in the gym, knowing, hey, I would rather be quarterbacking a football team, but it's basketball season. I need to be ready for a moment. And I never really thought he tried to do too much either. He just said, I know what I'm asked to do, and when the ball comes my way, I'll be ready. And I'm not going to try to do more than that besides just be ready for that moment. And no, he was a huge factor that I think took some teams by surprise. that they'd have plans. Okay, we need to handle Lundgren, we need to handle Scott, and then all of a sudden Jet, and I'll throw Carter Grohl, Dylan Fonsbeck, Cade Nelson, Dylan Wasden. Suddenly they had opportunities, and coaches are going, man, it's hard to prepare for. We can prepare for 2. I don't know if we can prepare for 8. Actually, Nicodemus is a good example of that in the state championship game.
What do you got next, Al?
The next one I got here is, how do you keep your team rolling through, because you kind of had a slow start at the first, but we found out later that it was Ridge, obviously a big key to your team, had his concussion. But what did you do to tell them kids, even though they was losing a few games? What was your thoughts and how you just kept them going through that moment?
Man, a lot of it they do themselves. In the end, everything you say is going to be filtered through a group of 18-year-old boys' ears. So I actually put a lot of credit to them and their parents. But, we really try to focus on being process-oriented. The state tournament's a long ways away because, you guys have the same thing. You'll have games that you win by 20, but you don't play that well. But because you were up by 20 at the end, you can give yourself some false feedback and say, we must have played perfectly. We won by 20. There's other games you lose by 8, but you played phenomenal basketball. You just played against a good team and it was their night. But there was more to celebrate in the 8-point loss and in the 20-point win. And I think just bringing that up, helping kids keep perspective that, the final score matters, but it's more about each possession by possession. Look at the process, and we'll let the results take care of themselves. That's that Bill Walsh, the coach for San Francisco. That was his big thing. If you do little things right, the score will take care of itself. And we preach that. We also know that some of those games we lost, I don't think that any team wants to be undefeated. I actually remember Coach Gines, we're going to go back a ways, but I was a freshman when you guys were undefeated. I think you were 22-0, and you played your last game of the regular season in our gym. And Levi might not forgive me for this, but Justin Kennedy got a steal against Levi Gines. Right at the end, you guys were in your 4 corners. You were up by 1, and Justin Kennedy just got a good pick on the ball against Levi. And, even Levi is a great player, but even the best players can have a turnover. And he went out and got a layup, and we won. And this is coming through my dad, but Coach Gines went to him and said, hey, that was the best thing possible for us because it got that monkey off our back. We don't have to worry about being undefeated now. We can just worry about being good. And, we played some big teams that we knew were stretch games, and we needed to play those teams because, honestly, I think any coach in our state could design a schedule to go undefeated until the state tournament if they wanted to. But I don't think that's what's good for you long term. And when players get into that, it makes those losses easier. They're actually good for you.
Right. I said basically the same thing when Rich beat our girls up here at home because they had not lost to that point. And I told Dally, I said, that's the best thing that could happen to these girls right now. They need a loss. They need to kind of humble up a little bit and like you said, get the monkey off your back and now just play ball. So I agree 100%. I guess it's probably cool if you can go undefeated all season and even win the championship. I guess that's pretty cool, but how often does that happen,
Yeah, and then that kind of rolls into the next question, how do you keep your team focused and humble during the successful time? Because you guys didn't lose a game once Lundgren, I think, came back. Is that correct?
Yep. I think that's what practice is for. If you're not building practices where players can lose, where, they're competitive, but it's not just winning all the time, I think that's part of it. And we have coaches that are great at that. I've wanted to be a fly on the wall on Coach Gines's practice and Coach Hughes and Coach Barney's and see how they do it. But, I think that humility it comes from that man, we might have won the game on Friday, but I got my butt kicked in practice on Tuesday in this drill or in this competitive thing that, Connor Argyle, a sophomore for us, I will say he blocked Ridge Lundgren several times in practice. Nobody goes undefeated. And then, I just think players coming from good homes, the social media thing, kids can be inflated. I'm glad I didn't have it when I was a kid because I wasn't that good, but man, social media might have made me think I was better than I was. It's hard to stay humble and have that edge. But man, when players come home to good homes, which we're fortunate all our players do, they have great parents, great family support networks, and the community can kind of keep them in check. Um, that helps too, because man, when you're 18 on a good basketball team, it's easy to be overconfident. But nothing like going home and having grandpa make you shovel manure in the barn for a couple hours to humble you right up.
Sometimes the humbling comes off the court, huh?
The next question we have here is, what is the most important lesson that you think you've learned in your coaching career?
You know, yeah, I mean, so many of them. I think the one I've gotten lately is, relationships matter more than wins. Um, and I hope I've communicated that. I think I have to our players that, I care about you as a person before I care about as a basketball player. That was actually one of our themes going in to state. We said people over scores and memories over titles. That we wanted to have all four if we could, for sure. We wanted to win games, we wanted to win a championship, but in the end, the thing we're going to remember the most is the people and the memories. And I think that helped us. When they were in the hotel, instead of getting worried about who's coming up next, I think it helped them step back a little bit and say, "Hey, I'm going to remember being in this hotel room, and we're about to go do a shoot around, and I just want to remember that." The game and the score is important, but this is the good stuff right here. And I think that's part of it there, that I've just learned that, man, in the end, nobody's going to remember your record. Nobody will remember individual scores, maybe a couple people here and there, but for the most part, you will definitely remember bus rides home. And to really embrace that as a coach and say, hey, we're here to win games, but also we're here for just good experiences you can look back on and enjoy and have fun with. And basketball should not be the culmination of any 18-year-old kid's life. They've got much bigger things to go on to, but we want you to look back in a way that you're proud of, and that's going to come from the way you treat people and the memories you make, much more than how effective your crossover is and your goofy foot finish or your drop step.
Well, and I can speak on that too, because and not to make this about myself, but when I played, my role, I was a shooter, did fairly well with it, but never won a championship. But I can look back and I can remember the memories, like you said, the memories we made, the friendships that were bonded. The Coach Gines is one of my favorite people in the world. I love talking to him. I love talking to Jerry Strebel, and it's because of the way we formed those relationships. And I agree with you 100%.
The next question we have is, how do you empower your assistant coaches? Because you have some good assistants with a lot of knowledge by your side.
I think you just have to turn things over to them and trust them, and not be such a control freak. And that's something I've kind of grown into as well. Just letting them coach, and in our practice we try to play more than we talk. And but like our Coach Walker, our freshman coach, for a couple of years now, he's ran all of our out of bounds. And if you've noticed, we get the ball out of bounds, kids don't even look to me, they look to him. Coach Weston and Coach Holmes, they run all of our defense, all of it. And they get about a half hour of team defense every night, in addition to the drills that they put in throughout the day, and that's a daily occurrence. And a lot of times in that time, I'll go off the floor, I'll grab a drink, I'll sit back and just cross my arms and let them coach. And you're much better, in my opinion, you're much better as a group of coaches than you're ever going to be as an individual coach. And obviously there needs to be a primary voice. That's the job of a head coach. And decisions end up with me. But at the same time, I've looked at them and tried to say, whatever you think, go do a little homework. And oh, I like that. Oh, we're going to play some 1-3-1. I like that with our personnel. Sure, go with it. And I really got that from Evanston. I had an assistant there that, I had several players come to me and say it was like we had two head coaches. And they really enjoyed that. And I tried to create the same thing here, that man. It doesn't matter if you're a freshman coach, even our middle school coaches, we're all part of one staff.
That's a pretty cool way of running things. I
That
like
really
that.
is, yeah.
Yep. Well, I have one, since we're kind of on coaching. Um, what's the biggest challenge facing basketball coaches today?
You know, it's probably the same thing we've always faced, but I actually think ego is that's what we're battling day in and day out. You know, sometimes our own egos, the egos of parents, the egos of kids, and trying to get them to buy into a team concept. Um, I not to sound like the good old days, but I think Coach Wooden at UCLA had an easier time with that. Just in that era of people sacrificing for a team. But I think Bill Walton had some ego that, you know, Coach Wooden had to work through. And today, you know, you can always find a travel team, you can always find a trainer who's going to tell you how great you are. But to walk in the gym and have a 17-year-old kid say, you know, if whether I play well or don't, the main goal here is to play well as a group. I think that's what every coach is battling, and I'm very blessed to be in Rich, like I said, where I have good parent support. I mean, they believe in a group forming. But you know, I look at coaches elsewhere, and you see kids now that are picking which school they're going to play for. They're transferring. They're you know, getting on these travel teams where you know they get to shoot the ball 50 times a game, and they think that's normal. And then they hit high school. I think that's a big battle of high school coaches right now. And you know, you can always find somebody to tell you how good you are. Um, Coaches need to be allowed not to be, you know, not to be blunt or brutal or bullying about it, but to be able to look at a kid and say, here's the deficiencies I see in your game that you need to improve on. That has to be something that coaches can do. We can't just be relegated to all we do is clap our hands and say good job. There has to be an edge to it. And I think that's a battle. I have a bunch of friends in 4A Wyoming that they're dealing with the same thing, maybe a higher talent level. But I was just at the regional tournament in Evanston. I talked to Coach Randy Roden from Kelly Walsh, a friend of mine, and he's like, "I'm really talented, but egos have gotten in the way, and that's my battle in the next week and a half is to try to get these guys to buy into team success."
And that's
If I
hard too
thought harder, I
because
could probably come up with about 20 more, but that's what's on my mind.
yeah, right. Well, that's tough too because these travel leagues that these kids can play in now, like I tell my kids, it's not a bad thing to do. If you can get a ball in your hand, or like my boy just started baseball and they're doing an early spring travel league, and I guess my mindset has always been the more they can play, the better. But I've never thought of it that way. How you can see a kid falling into that to where somebody's telling him you're so great or this, and then you have to face the real world when you get to the high school team. I've never thought of it that way, so it makes a lot of sense, and that can make it tough.
Well, and travel teams, I love them. I was just at my son. I've got a fifth grade son right now, sixth grade. I was just at a gym and they were doing a practice before I got here. You need to have them, and they can be done so well. We've got two guys, running some travel teams here, and some parents on the Bear Lake side too. That you have to have it. I honestly think the Jimmy Chitwood era, where you just practice by yourself in the backyard, I don't know if that's good enough in 2026 to be a competitive basketball player on a competitive team. I think you have to go get some game experience. But man, you can't be afraid of losing, and you have to go stretch yourself. And I get that's tough when here you're a dad and you're putting a fifth grade travel team together. You don't want to drive to Boise, Idaho, and get beat by 20, but those kids have to face some setbacks and some challenges, and then you'll see the growth later. And I don't know, it's just a challenge in youth basketball right now. And there's a lot of money pouring into things, and it's a different state than what we grew up with in the early 2000s and 90s for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess the next one here is, in the state tournament you had some good games that could have went either way, but this next one's how do you handle pressure in those big moments?
Oh, well, whenever I think pressure, I go back to the Tabiona Rich semifinal last year that went triple overtime. Um, and, I mean, in the end, the ball goes in or it doesn't, but I think you have to have the kids convinced that you care about them either way, win or lose, and that either way the sun's going to come up the next day, and you're just going to be living your normal life. It's not the end of the world or the world championship either way. And I think that having that presence on the sideline of, hey, it's important. We're going to be loud. We're going to be intense, but in the end, we're good with each other. Um, and I'm sure Coach Gimes was doing the same thing, but when I think it was the first. I can't remember if it was the first overtime or going into the second overtime, but you guys had us down, and I called a timeout. And most of that timeout, I mean, we did draw up a set that we were going to run, but I just looked at kids and grinned and said, "You're going to remember this your whole lives. A double overtime semifinal. You'll never forget this. So look around and enjoy." And I'm not saying that's the perfect move, but in that game, I think it did make kids relax and go play basketball instead of being this life or death combat, which sometimes the intensity of a high school gym can make it feel that way. So I think when kids just know that, hey, coach wants me to make it, but if I miss it, he's going to put his arm around me and say, proud of you. I think it just gives them a chance to breathe and relax and actually go play with confidence and with rhythm and with momentum, where if you're always worried about, man, if I miss this, we might lose and that would be the end of the world, nobody performs well in that situation. So that's where I am right now. Who knows? Talk to me in 5 years and maybe I'll be saying, no, it is life or death. And
Well, if I was to bet on it, I would bet you what you told him in that huddle was the game changer right there, because it does take a lot of pressure off kids, and I'm sure they still felt it a little bit, but that, I know for me as a player, if I was to hear that from a coach, I would love hearing that, because it does make you open your eyes to a bigger deal.
well, it did make us run the set that we drew up way too deep. That I remember that one. That was when Carter Scott hit that. It was beyond NBA. And maybe I took a little too much time because we actually wanted them to run that inside the 3-point line so he could catch it at about the college line. And they ran it 5 feet deeper than that, and he caught it in a different zip code, and the ball happened to go in. But yeah, I do think it helped for them to just look around and smile and relax and enjoy it instead of always be amped up. And it's hard because, man, with all the social media coverage and I mean, those 1A gyms and state tournaments, they're big. It's whole communities there, not just a neighborhood, it's a county. And, it is high pressure, but I think that's a good thing too. These kids learning to deal with pressure, and yeah, there are expectations. And people want you and expect you, they want you to do well and they expect you to play hard. I think that's okay, but when kids can relax and have fun with the game, even in high pressure, that's when you see really special moments come out. And I will say that Bryson Fabrizio in that game, he might have felt the pressure, but he was playing with a grin on his face the whole time. And that's why he was so phenomenal that game.
That also, I want to bring up the Manila game in Manila. What was going through your mind? And I want to know, had you practiced that play before? Where'd you even get that play from? Did you come up with it? I mean, because it was ran to perfection.
So we have practiced that. We call it home run. And when we install it, we tell kids, let's hope that we don't have to run this, but if we do. And the story on that play, I mean, it's broken now. It's never going to work again. But I got that play from Jerry Carroll. He is the dad of J.C. Carroll from Evanston that went and played in Europe. And I'm going to have to ask Jerry for sure to confirm this, but the way I understand it is J.C. saw that play ran by a team from Northern Africa, I think Morocco, when they were in Spain playing, and his dad picked up on it, and his dad showed it to us, and then we ran it. We actually had a game winner against Star Valley on that same play when I was at Evanston my last year. And so I've only ran it twice, and it's worked both times, which means it's probably broken now. I need to find something different. That's the story on that play.
Was it Fonsbeck that caught it and gave it to Carter?
Yeah, I like it because it kind of builds into a football culture. If you have a quarterback on your team, you have them be the inbounder, and we had Jet Holmes. And then if you have a tight end type guy, somebody who's big, can take up space, but's used to going up and catching a ball in traffic, you have them be the catch guy at midcourt, and then you put your two best shooters to cross. and have them trail down. And I did tell Carter Scott, you realize that was a 7-inch miss that counted for 3 points because he banked it in.
Yep.
But you know, I felt bad for those Manila kids because of how hard they played. But man, it was a special night to be there. They deserved to win, but they executed it well, and the ball bounced in, and I think that our kids. It wasn't that they were okay with losing, but I think they knew that, okay, let's say we drop a game, this isn't state. But man, that was maybe the most exciting moment I've been a part of in a gym and with Rich. Just kids happy, and you feel bad for T. Goodman and Kel Chowning and Camden because of how hard they played. They deserved to win, but boy, that was just a great moment. And actually, after Carter Scott hit that shot, he didn't know what to do, so he just ran outside. They were on their way to the jump in before we finally caught him.
The one thing that really caught my eye with that was the awareness of Fonsbeck to catch it, turn, and hit Carter right where it needed to be, all in the one motion. I mean, he looked more calm than anybody on the whole floor. And to me, that's what really stood out on that play.
Well, and believing that you still have a chance. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that, you're down two, and there's 2 seconds, and you got to go 94 feet, and they've already lost before you run the play, and that's a credit to our kids and our coaching staff that, nobody really hung their heads. They looked and said, "Hey, we've still got 2 seconds. We have a chance," and that's a credit to this group. Not every group I've coached has been like that, but for them to still believe and go, "No, we've got a chance. We can make this happen." That's what makes those moments possible. If teams go, "Well, shoot," and you're beat already, there's no chance that it's going to go.
Agreed.
Well, clear from Africa to 1A basketball in
to
Utah.
Rich High
That's
School,
awesome.
yeah. Do you got one, or do you want me to?
You can read one.
So I wanted to ask, what's something that you're working on right now to be a better coach yourself?
Yeah, I try to read a lot. I actually picked that up from Jerry Carroll there at Evanston, but I read a lot of coaching books. And, even ones that don't have anything to do with basketball. The one I just finished is about the New Zealand All Blacks. It's a book called Legacy, and they just talk about culture building. You're never going to take a book and say, here's exactly everything we're going to do in our program, but you pick up little ideas, and I really enjoyed the Dan Hurley book, Unstoppable, about his UConn year and the back-to-back championships they had. And Dan Hurley is Dan Hurley. I'm Lex Cornia. I can't try to be Dan Hurley. First off, I get kicked out of my house if I use that language. But you pick up little things. I really like reading football books, and then I think good coaches borrow things and great coaches steal. So when you see something that you like, I love the way Tabiona has ran that circle motion, and we don't do it as well as Tabby, but that is something we run. Just because I saw how successful Coach Gines was with it, and you take it and see if it fits. And I think having some humility and knowing that other people's brains, they see things differently than you, and maybe better, and just use it and try it. And then I think the big key is making sure that it fits your kids, and that it plays to the strengths they already have. I mean, you can't hope to be the Yukon Huskies. I can't just steal Coach Hurley's offense because it's not a fit for us. But there are some things from his program that I think do fit, and you try to take them and use them as best you can.
Well, and I think as a coach, too, you have to be willing to continue to learn, right? I mean, like you said, if you find something and you don't know if it's going to work unless you try it, but to be able to tell yourself, hey, I think we should try that, and keep your mind open, because I'm sure as coaches, even though you could coach for, like Coach Gines, for 30 years or however long it's been, I'm pretty sure there's still something else he could learn. You know what I mean? So.
Well, and that's why Coach Gines has been so good. I know for a fact Tabiona plays differently than they did when I played them in the late 90s. And that's a credit to Coach Gines. Coach Hughes, I've seen him completely shift and alter, and you want your core pieces to be the same. I heard you guys, your conversation you had with Coach Barney about some non-negotiables in Panguitch basketball, which I think that is it's a credit to him that there are things that will not change. If you play Panguitch basketball, this will be the same. But I also know Coach Barney is completely willing to shift based on personnel as long as those core things stay the same.
Sure.
And I don't know if I can make it as long as Coach Gines, but I do try to learn and adjust each year, and also admit when you're wrong and say, man, that wasn't a fit. And last thing I'll say with that, in a high school basketball program, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And being selective, I think that's the art of coaching, is going, okay, I'd love to do these 5 things, but we're already doing these 12 things. I'm going to put those on the back burner, and let's get good at the things we're doing, because we can't do everything, even though we can do anything.
The next one, just, and this don't even have to be connected to basketball, but what's the best piece of advice you've received in your life that you might disperse to your team or your buddies or your own kids?
Man, I'm looking at my practice plan. I put quotes on here and different things all the time. That's a tough question to find the absolute best. But well, here's one from a practice we had in February. So this is February 2nd. We were actually playing Tabiona that week. I think that's when we went out to your guys' place. And it's a quote I stole from Brad Stevens, so I'll just go with that. But Brad Stevens says, "The game honors toughness, and toughness is doing the next right thing." So that was kind of our theme, that our focus that week is we need to be tough, because, that gym in Tabiona, I know you'd rather be in the old one, because it was really intimidating. I did play there, but I mean, the new one is pretty tough too. That purple carries some weight, but the game honors toughness. If you're tough, the game honors that. You'll be successful. And what is toughness? Well, it's doing the next right thing, whether that's diving on the floor, hitting up your teammate, keeping your eyes up after the coach yanks you because you made a couple mistakes, whatever it is, and being tough enough to do that. So I guess I'll roll with that, because that was the theme that week.
And then probably one of the last ones that I got here before we talk about a little bit of the state tournament is just outside of basketball, what do you enjoy doing? Throw basketball to the side. What do you like to do? You personally.
Yeah. I live in Woodruff, and we have our family ranch. I've got 4 kids, and I wouldn't say I'm a cowboy, but I do love the ranching agricultural lifestyle. Love jumping on a 4-wheeler with my kids. Hey, we need to go move some cows, and then after that, maybe we'll go shoot some clay pigeons, or we'll go fish. Just the rural lifestyle. I actually did my master's program in New York, and we were upstate, so we weren't in the city, but we were in Rhinebeck, New York, on the Hudson River, and it's not agricultural, not the way you have it here, and I loved it out there. But man, I love being outside doing things with my kids, yeah, that's probably it. I mean, our kids are in high school right now, and they're so busy. But I love just taking them and doing things that make them go, wow. We're going to head on a trip here after basketball and musical are done, and we're going to go to Zion's, and my family hasn't been there yet, and I know that they're going to be driving through there, and I'm going to see 4 kids go, wow. And so that's probably the best. My wife Lisa's from Bear Lake, so we spent a lot of time in Bear Lake, and we have a lot of family close, and sometimes it can make you pull your hair out, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Having my kids know their cousins, and it's the best thing you could ask for. And I'll say one last thing. I really love teaching. I'm a teacher at the high school, and it's the best job in the world. There's nothing better than, and I teach English. We're reading The Pearl right now, and I love it. I wouldn't do anything else, even though there's a lot of other things that probably pay more money.
Yeah,
right.
There's something different about small town living, though. My wife, she's from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and she knows like 2 of her cousins, and it just blows her mind that I can sit here and tell her every one of my cousins, and not only their names, but I can give her stories and memories from when we were kids with those cousins. And the small town, like I said, when I moved away for 8 years, we lived in, the last 4 was in Eagle Mountain, which is where my kids went to elementary for the first couple of years, and they, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but once we moved back, they've said several times, well, you couldn't do that in Eagle Mountain. Like how come we can do that here? And I'm like, it's a different world. I don't really know how to explain it to you. It's just different. So, but
well, let's roll into the state tournament.
yeah,
now.
we can wrap up with talking about the tournament.
Valley was your first, game. What was your mindset going into that game?
Well, first off, we knew how good they were. I wasn't able to watch the Tabiona game, but I mean, we played Tabiona, especially when you guys came up here. We knew it took a good team to beat you. So it made us really believe when we saw the numbers that the house kid was putting up. And oh gosh, who's their big kid? I want to say Hanson, but it's not.
Hanson, I think.
Or Harris.
Harris, the two Harris kids. It made us look at their stats and go, okay, these are legit numbers. They can play. And then to see him live, Amari House, man, what a talent. What a talent. And I was blown away by how big Harris was and how quick he was, his footwork. But we just thought, hey, if we really need to buy in on the defensive end, and if we can make life miserable for them through our defense, we're going to let our offense kind of flow and take care of itself. And that's kind of how that game went. They made runs, but we were comfortable enough and bought into defense enough that we were able to come out with the win. Now, I do think that Valley is just 1 year away. They are going to be so tough next year, and they were very tough this year. They're a team to watch next year. And Coach Hoyt, he runs a great system. His kids run it well. They buy in. That's a program to watch.
Yeah, definitely, and we said that too. Valley next year, I mean, you better have them on your radar because they're gonna make a big run next year, I think. Your next game, which me and Wasey talked about this, we knew this was gonna be probably one of the best games down there. I mean, they were all good, but this one was awesome when you played Panguitch. What was your thoughts going into that one?
Well, I mean, they've been our nemesis, 2 years knocking us out in the title game. And I think our kids had a little bit of a mental block to get over. Some programs, I'll throw Tabby in there, Panguitch, you just see the uniform and it's like they already have a 10-point advantage, And I think we had a lot of confidence going into that game because, if you would have put our seasons next to each other and just looked at us on paper, I think you'd say, well, Rich should win that game by about 12 points. But the problem is nobody tells Panguitch that. And the way they played, I was very impressed with the Barney kid. I mean, he got a couple baskets. We didn't have the right kid on him. And then I said, hey, okay, we'll put Carter Grohl on you. He's one of our best defenders. He scored on Carter Grohl. He scored on Dylan Fonsbeck. That kid's footwork. And, I mean, I don't know. He's, 5'10", maybe?
Yeah. Well, and he's had such good brothers. I'm sure this just beat him up in the gym. So even me and Wasey said it wasn't surprising to see him come in and do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we also, obviously a lot was on the big kid, but for sure I felt like he came in and he kind of surprised you guys. Probably like you was saying, you can't really expect that to come out of a kid that probably comes off the bench. So.
Yeah. And then, Trenton Berga is such a talent. You have to pay attention to him, and that, the Ramsey kids, that they can get going. I thought Tayson Ramsey played phenomenal with that mid-range game, which are tough shots to make, but man, I think he made about 4 in a row. And the attention you have to give Berga because he's such a force with that length. He's really come on this year. I think Coach Barney's done incredible things with him because we saw him last year, and man, they are just a problem. And and in a game, their defense against us, they played their plan to a T and it worked. Ridge was frustrated. We had some other kids that I think they came open, and if that first shot goes in, you're rolling. But if you miss your first one, that can carry over to your second. But I really want to give a shout out to Aiden Weston. He went 1 of 3 that game, but that one that he shot, when he was a kid that had been really good for us and kind of had a slump and he didn't have a ton of confidence. And he would always ask me when he shot it, hey, sorry, I shouldn't have shot that. And I finally said, no, don't say that to me anymore. When you're open, you trust it and you shoot it. And for him to step up and hit that 3, I think there's about 1:20 left. what a huge shot. That's as big a shot as the Carter Scott shot at Manila. That was a huge shot for us. Things were going downhill fast, and he made that, and we had life again, and managed to keep it going. But man, the shot that Penguich almost hit when it left his hand, I thought it was good, and we were coming up short to Penguich again. So for those kids to fight the way they did, man, huge hats off to Penguich. That program is something special.
I want to real quick go back to the mental block that you talked about that sometimes kids can have, because I know that's one problem that our girls had with Rich's girls, is it was in their head. And Rich is a great team. Tabiona was a great team. In my mind, those were the top two teams in the whole state. We kind of said that. I mean, Wayne was really good. Wayne had some great players, and they were a strong team. But I talked to some of our girls here one night, just caught them after one of the third and fourth grade games, and I just told them, I said, you can beat Rich if you get it out of your head. And they just kind of looked at me like, what? And I'm like, you guys are every bit as good as them. They're a great team, but so are you. But I think it's hard to get kids to get over that mental block. I just started helping coach our junior high girls this year, and we have a couple of girls that it's so much in their head that it just ruins their game. Like you said, if that first shot doesn't go in, sometimes the rest of their night's over because they just have such a hard time getting over it. But when you see a certain opponent, that mental block is a real thing, and have kids be able to come to get over that and push through it is really cool to watch.
Well, and I think sometimes we look at these kids and say, gosh, you're a dumb kid. They're just a team. But I see professional athletes do the same thing, college athletes. I mean, there are games that the Lakers win just because they're wearing purple, or, the Yankees win because they're in the pinstripes, or Duke wins because, you see the brotherhood patch. And I mean, even professional athletes have intimidation can be a real thing. But I think when you have a core team that believes in each other, and some of those things I was talking about, and that's what I saw with the Tabby girls. They were disappointed when they lost. I was there for both those games against Rich during the season, and you could tell they were disappointed, but they didn't implode on each other. There was no finger pointing. They grouped up, and I'm good friends with Coach Lundgren. We knew that first off, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times, and secondly, if anything, I think it made those Tabby girls hungrier, and they had to get through Wayne to do it. Boy, what a bunch of classic games.
Yep.
Well, and then we'll talk about this next game. But I just wanted, I'm sure the Wayne Badgers, they had to have been in the back of your mind, because even when we watched that semifinals game, me and Wasey thought they were gonna go to that championship game to face you. I mean, what was your thought on Wayne?
Well, I told Coach Syrett this, so I'll just say it. But you can only prep so deep. I'm a dad, I'm a teacher, and I put a lot of time into basketball, having scouting reports, preparing teams. But you can't prep for everybody, and most of my preparation went into Paiute and Wayne when I saw the bracket, and I knew that they were going to have a tough road to get there, but I went into Tabby and Wayne. But I want to give credit to Coach Syrett. The art of coaching is to have your team play their best at the end. And, there's a lot of teams that if you had the state tournament 3 weeks earlier, a month earlier, or in December, you'd have different state champions than what you end up with. But I think that's the art of coaching, is to just have your team peak right when it's most critical. And that's what Coach Syrett had. I watched a couple of their games earlier, mostly to scout teams like Paiute and teams like Wayne, and they were playing Bryce Valley. And they were not on my radar. I saw how they were playing, but that was a different beast. Man, Rustin Shanoff, watching him, as Bryce Syrett, right? Gary's son, number 13. They were just different players in that state tournament, had all the confidence in the world, and I give credit to Coach Syrett for that. And if you could explain how to do it, everybody would do it. That's why I say it's an art. I don't know how you can get teams to do that, but man, the great ones, they just do it year in and year out, and that's what I saw in Coach Syrett.
Yeah, well, and then that championship game you played, just unbelievable. We even stayed for that game just because we wanted to watch it. How's it feel to be a state champion?
Well, I mean, it's great. Winning your last game always feels good. You're still saying goodbye to a group of kids that we've got another trimester with them. I'll see them, but having that group together in a gym, that'll never happen again. And so, it's bittersweet, but man, it's so much fun. And I think the coolest thing about it is all the kids gave credit to the teams that came before them. We came up short twice, but they talked about the impact that Jaden Dash had in that gym for them. The impact that Drake Weston and Carter Hoffman and having a funeral for a teammate last year and Daniel Smith and what he did, and even the years that we struggled a little more, but we tried to build a culture in the gym that got things moving in the right way. Those state championships, they belong to the team that won them, but more they belong to the program that built them. And there's a couple pieces of net that I need to send out to some kids that had already graduated, but they were just as big a part of that championship as the ones who were on the floor. Not taking anything away from the ones who are on the floor, but kids are great. But man, Monday hit and we had school and a new trimester, and kids go, man, yeah, that was great, but I'll be able to say that my whole life. I'm a state champion, but also I need to get my English homework turned in, or Coach Cornia is gonna fail me.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, well, I guess the last thing, what are you looking forward to next year? Who's some keys that you're looking to develop next year?
Well, and that's one issue we had. We were very senior heavy, and all those kids were great and contributed, top to bottom. Watching Dylan Wasden go in against Trenton Verga, and the plan we had if we had played Hunter Robbins with his length, all of them needed to be there, but we realized that we had a bunch of kids that didn't get time. So, I'm looking forward to seeing kids come play. I feel bad that they're only going to get, those juniors are only going to really get 1 year at state. I know Paxton Nicodemus played some, but I am kind of excited that, they have a lot to prove. They didn't really get scouted. Nobody really saw them play unless you were there for our JV games, and I think that they're kind of excited for the challenge. If anybody knows anything about Rich this year, you go, well, they're going to drop off next year. They're younger, they're less experienced, and I think this next group of kids has really grabbed a hold of that and said, hey, let's go shock everybody. We don't have Ridge anymore. We don't have Jaden Dash or Drake Weston, but we do have some kids that play hard, and I love that mentality. And in fact, that's a lot of fun to coach. It's years like this where, hey, everybody knows you're pretty good and you got a target on your back. Those years are stressful, but the years where you can kind of be that dark horse that nobody really sees coming, and then, yeah, I'm excited for that. And just being in 1A basketball again. I love talking with Coach Hughes. I love talking, with coaches at Tinnick, and I think we're going to play some Region 20 teams this year, and just seeing those kids and those parents. I just coached the All-Star game, and it was so fun. We had Case Thomas there and meeting his dad, and I can't remember if he had little brothers or not. Case. Well, I know Case's dad will be there again, and I don't know, just the connection and the camaraderie that happens in 1A ball. The ride is the best part, and I got to meet Raleigh and Jason Hernandez that you guys had on the show, and talk with Coach Parsons, and we're going to be at the Manila camp, and I'm excited to talk with him there. And I apparently I don't know if it's Hernandez or Raleigh have some younger brothers coming up.
Hernandez, his brother will be a freshman.
Yeah, and just being able to look at that kid and say, hey, I know your brother really well. You're not as good as him, are you? And having him get that grin of like, I'm not just as good, I'm better. That's what it's all about. And the state championship was great, but man, the ride to get there, great memories. Can't wait to do it again.
Well, Coach, I hate to maybe throw a raindrop on your parade here, but people know Rich, that truly know Rich. They know that you're going to put something together, and you will not be a dark horse next year. I guarantee you. Everybody, we said it when we first started this podcast, when you guys were kind of going through that slump, both of us said Rich is going to Rich, and I guarantee you they will be back. So, but I'm looking forward to it as well, watching some of your younger kids play a little bit and see what you put together. And me personally just want to congratulate you on a great season and finishing off the right way, and I hope we get to see you on the sideline for many years to come.
Well, thank you. And before we're done, I do want to say thank you to you guys. I've listened to every episode. My players listen to it. I love how balanced you are. You talk about kids. You're positive, and it really comes from a passion of both Tabiona basketball, but just 1A basketball in general. Um, Keep up the good work. I'm glad you built the studio, and we'll see you back next year, right?
Yes, absolutely.
absolutely.
We will be here for sure. Well, thank you for your time, Coach, and hope we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, see ya. All right, well,
What an awesome dude.
yeah, that was
I mean, not only as a coach, and I know he's going to listen to this, but Coach Cornia, as a dad, as a person in life, that interview, I mean, you're, like I said, you're going to be remembered for kind of like how we remember Coach Giants. And like I said, not only on the coaching end and the basketball end, but just the life lessons you're teaching, because right there in that interview, you can see the reason why boys, I'm sure even the girls that he's teaching, just, he's someone that they got to look up to.
Yep.
So.
Yep, I agree. That was a great interview.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
That was way fun. Well,
for the last few minutes, yeah, we can roll into something here that you've been working on.
yeah. So I mean, people's been wondering what we're going to talk about. I think we're going to talk about a little bit of softball, because 1A now is not combined with 2A, but I think we're going to talk about a little bit 2A softball as well. So I had some rankings here on the softball end that Des News has, and I know softball, but I don't know it in depth like basketball. So this is going to be some good learning stuff for me. But looking at these rankings, they got Altamont, the Longhorns. They're ranked number 1 in the 1A standings. So I'm just excited to kind of dive into a new sport and just learn it a little bit. And then you got the Milford Tigers, they're number 2. Penguin Bobcats number 3. The Wayne Badgers number 4, and Paiute Thunderbirds number 5 for the top rankings in that.
When does that start?
It started this last week. I know there's some programs that haven't played games yet, just because I know basketball kind of rolls right in. So I'm sure a lot of them coaches didn't schedule things until probably this next week is when games are really going to start get rolling.
I'm just curious, because you said a couple of teams there, Milford, Paiute. I'm curious to see if any of those girls that were on their basketball team roll over into softball.
Yeah, I'm like I said, it's all new to me. I've never. I've been involved with the softball because my father-in-law, he is the head coach for the Duchesne Eagles, and so I have followed it, but I've never really dug deep into it and really studied it, So it's going to be fun for sure. I have the 2A rankings here as well. South Sevier is number 1 on that. The Duchesne Eagles are number 2. Enterprise Wolves are number 3. Beavers are number 4, and ALA Eagles are number 5. But like I said, some of these programs have played, but I know, like talking to my father-in-law the other night, he specifically did not schedule games because he knew he didn't want to have just 1-2 practices and then jump right into a game. So,
Right.
But looking at that, when I was talking to Coach Grant, he's excited. He definitely realizes he's got a dang good team, and he's hoping that they can really push and get another state championship out of their program this year.
It'll be fun to follow it this year. I've never followed softball. Baseball I have. Speaking of baseball, we'll probably talk a little bit about that, 1A baseball once it gets started.
Yeah.
It won't start until July, but we may as well, if we're going to follow softball, may as well cover that too. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited for this, and I'm glad that you kind of dug in and found this out about the softball. And like I said, it gives us something to talk about. Studio's about done. We just as well use it. It doesn't need to sit there until next basketball season.
Exactly.
So.
And then listeners out there, with the track programs and different things, we'll try but I've never really been into track, I'll be honest.
And that's with me. I don't know a lot about it.
People, if you got kids that's doing great, send us an email. Let us know, because we want to talk about them as well. I'm more of a team sport guy, even though I know track is a team sport, but a lot of that's more individual stuff, and it's not like I'm going to find out where to watch a track meet, you
Right.
know. So at least with the softball, I feel like I can follow it a little more and you know, kind of just roll with that a little easier. So
But yeah, like he said, you know, send us, you know, stuff about your athletes with track, and we are more than happy to get it out there and let people know and recognize them for accomplishments they may have during the track season. Because I'm the same way. I pretty much know if you can run fast and jump high, you can probably be pretty good at track.
Yeah.
Like that's I don't know much about it.
yeah,
so
me neither. So
I know we have golf that's getting ready to start,
Yeah,
so maybe we
and-
could dabble into it a little bit. We've
and
got like
that's something I've never golfed in
see,
my
and
life.
I just
so.
asked straight. You've never even been to a course just to go?
Nope, I've never have.
We did. I golfed in high school. We had a few of us that did it, and we weren't very good. Well, we weren't good, but we had a lot of fun doing it. And I actually just told Coach Parsons, we were talking down at the state tournament about golf. They had a kid, I can't remember his name, but man, he was good. And just having Coach Cornia on here, it was one of the Andersons. I think it had to have been Derek Anderson, and maybe I'm wrong. And Coach, if you listen to this, correct me if I am. I just don't remember Caden, so that's why I'm thinking it had to have been Derek.
Maybe,
But
I'm not sure.
Just such good golfers. I'll tell a story real quick. We were in Green River on their course. I think it was like our region meet or something. And like I said, we weren't good. Well, I got paired with the kid from Green River that was really good. Well, there was 4 of us, but he was and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I have to golf beside this kid. He's actually got something to win here.
Yeah.
I'm just here to have fun. I was playing horrible. Could not make a putt to save my life. So we got on. We was about halfway through. I don't know, hole 9 or 10, somewhere in there. And I'm like, you know what? So I was probably about 3 feet, 3 feet from the hole. So I laid down on my stomach and turned my putter backwards. and he looked at me and he's like, what are you doing? You can't hit it like that. And I'm like, dude, just give me this. Just give me this. Like, I'm going to be so over par. It's disgusting. Like, I'm not interfering in your shot. Just let me have this. He's like, okay. So he's kind of looking around. Because you can't do that, right?
Yeah.
I laid down, I pool sticked it, and that sucker went right straight in the hole. And I'm like, I got a new way to putt. And you can see the look on this kid's face. He's just thinking, please do not ever do this again. Because we don't want the what do they call them, the course marshals or whatever. We don't want them over here. And but we do have quite a few athletes here from Tabby this year. Strand just told me, but I can't remember. But there's several kids that are golfing, a couple of girls on the golf team, which I thought was pretty cool. So who knows? Maybe we'll dabble in it a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
try to follow who's kind of the top golfers who might be, pushing through to state. Because golf can be very boring. But if you and I don't know everything about golf, but I know enough that I can watch, if you've got a good golfer, some of the things they can do with that ball will blow your mind.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Tiger Woods.
I know him. That's about it.
And a lot of them can do it, but Rory McIlroy is another one that I used to like to watch. But the way they can hit the ball around the trees on purpose and put it where it needs to go blows me away, because the only time I hit the ball around is on accident.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go around where I want it to go. But yeah, we'll dabble with some of these sports going on
for
here,
sure.
and we'll put together a show and
But yeah, with that, we just want to say thank you, Coach, for an unbelievable interview. Honestly, because we didn't give him even a question to even look over or nothing.
no,
Everything
he
was
took
off the top
those
of his
right
head.
off. Yeah, took him in the chest.
He's just awesome. Can't wait for next year to see what he does.
Well, and I really liked a lot of his answers, because a lot of what he said, and I don't know, I'll speak for myself, maybe you felt this way, but you could feel it takes you back to when you were in school, and the way he handles things, it just makes you feel like you appreciate what he's saying, because that's kind of what you went through or wanted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of made you feel like, well, yeah, I know what you're talking about because I played for it, even though I didn't play for it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It was just
yeah.
weird. His answers were, I loved it. It was
Just
good.
yeah, spot on. But anyway, he says we're not professionals, but I think he's a professional.
Yep. Well, he doesn't say we're not professionals.
Well, he was
tried
just,
to say.
yeah, he was trying to say that we
But-
say we're not professionals, but I think he's a professional.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but with that, congratulations to the Rebels on their second, state championship. Once again, just thank you, everyone, and we hope to continue. I didn't read the sponsors off. I forgot to do that.
That's all right. We can do it right now. We haven't ended yet.
But first of all, I want to thank Grant Heating and Cooling again. That's Kyle Grant. I don't have the numbers pulled up. And then thank you to Hayes Giles with his pipe business. Like I said, I don't have none of this pulled up. G Customs, I believe, is what his is. For any of your pipe fence needs.
Horse stalls, arenas.
DFA logging. You can get a hold of me or my dad if you need any firewood, lumber, house logs, anything like that. DH Productions, that's Dylan Hoffman.
I think it's DH Pipe and Cells.
Is that what
I think
it is?
Is what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get these memorized.
For drill pipe, sucker rod, anything to build your pipe fence.
Yeah, and then Giles Glass, anything to do with glass, get a hold of Brett Giles. He does a phenomenal job. Did I get them all?
I think so.
And then thank you, Riley Hoffman, for coming up,
wiring it,
and thank you, Slim, Sheldon Giles, Wasey's brother.
Speaking of him, he came and helped me throw that insulation in the other day.
So,
I'm sure when I called and asked if he wanted to come up, I could only see the look on his face. I'm sure he was like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?"
But thank you, Slim, and is that all of them?
I think so. I think that's it.
Anyway, thank you, sponsors. You know, we couldn't do it without you as far as
Really
getting our studio goes. But with that, you got any more?
There was one thing. I was just going to throw the email out there again, just in case somebody does want to help us follow their athletes. It's the GD1A Sports Podcast at gmail.com.
But with that, thank you. And we might have a break this next week till some softball games.
Well, we still need to get.
I
I think the girls are still expecting us to get with them and kind
yeah,
of chat with them about
that was
their
the only
so.
one I was meaning. But as far as like a podcast on our softball and stuff, I think we're probably going to take a week break on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you know, with that, we just want to say thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Coach Cornia, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.
That's